There's a truth most women aren't told, but every man knows it deep down. From the moment he meets you, he's already placing you into one of two categories: the woman he will cherish, protect, and prioritize, or the woman he will keep around, just in case. It sounds brutal, but it's real. And unless you understand how men subconsciously categorize women, you could find yourself giving everything to someone who never planned to give you anything real. Men don't treat every woman the same. Some women make a man step up, show up, and invest fully. Others, no matter how beautiful or giving they are, get breadcrumbs. And the difference has nothing to do with what she looks like. It has everything to do with how she sees herself and what she silently communicates about her worth. In this video, I'm going to expose exactly what separates the queens from the maybes. You'll finally understand why some women are adored without having to beg for affection, while others are constantly wondering where they stand. If you've ever felt like you're being treated like an option, kept in a gray area, never fully chosen, this is the message you need to hear. Because once you become aware of how men are actually viewing you, and how much control you truly have over that perception, you'll never settle for less than devotion again. You don't need to chase. You don't need to change. You just need to shift your energy and standards, and the way men show up will shift too. Let's talk about the harsh truth and the power you have to rewrite your story starting right now. You can feel it the moment she enters a room. Queen energy. She doesn't have to speak loudly. She doesn't have to chase. She doesn't have to prove her worth. Her energy speaks for her. She's grounded, composed, and completely at peace with herself. Now compare that to option energy. It's anxious, it's uncertain, it's constantly trying to earn approval, wondering, am I enough for him? The truth is, men feel this contrast instantly, even if they can't fully explain it. Queen energy isn't about being perfect. It's about being certain. She knows her value doesn't increase based on a man's opinion of her. She doesn't get attached to potential. She doesn't try to force a connection or make excuses for someone's lack of effort. Instead, she simply observes. If the energy is aligned, she allows. If it's not, she gracefully removes herself. She doesn't need to punish, chase, or convince. Her silence is louder than begging. Her standards are not threats, they are facts. On the other hand, option energy operates from fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of missing the chance to be chosen. So she overcompensates. She gives more than she receives. She tolerates mixed signals, late-night texts, emotional inconsistency, and vague promises. She hopes that by being understanding and low maintenance, he'll eventually see her value. But here's the brutal truth. Men rarely respect the woman who's always available without boundaries. Queen energy triggers a man's respect. Option energy triggers his convenience. And it's not just about what you say, it's how you behave when he tests your standard. When a man pulls back, does your world crumble? Or do you lean back and continue living your life, knowing that the right man will meet you where you are? A queen doesn't ask someone to choose her. She becomes the kind of woman who chooses herself, and that forces the world, including men, to treat her accordingly. You see, men categorize women based on emotional cues. A woman who is secure, self-respecting, and unattached to the outcome. She's mysterious. She's valuable. He knows she's not afraid to walk away. That's powerful. But a woman who's emotionally dependent on his affection, who forgives constant disrespect just to keep the connection alive, that's someone he'll keep around for comfort, but not commit to with honor. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about becoming someone who truly believes, I am the prize. That belief shifts everything. How you carry yourself, how you respond to inconsistency, and how you choose who even gets access to you. When a man senses queen energy, he either steps up or he steps aside. And that's exactly what you want. Because only the ones willing to rise to your level are worthy of being in your life. The most heartbreaking thing is watching women with massive hearts, loyalty and beauty settle into option energy, because they were never taught their worth. But today that ends. Today you stop waiting for a man to treat you like a queen, and start being one. You stop shrinking, stop begging, and stop romanticizing someone's potential. You start protecting your peace, elevating your standards, and moving with the kind of elegance that commands respect without ever having to demand it. So ask yourself, am I moving like a woman who hopes to be chosen, or like one who knows she is the prize? Because the moment you shift from option energy to queen energy, the entire way men see you will change forever. Sometimes the most dangerous place to be is not when you're openly disrespected. It's when you're subtly treated like an option, and you don't even realize it. These behaviors aren't always loud or obvious. In fact, they're often disguised as love, flexibility, or being chill. But make no mistake, these patterns tell a man exactly how to treat you. One of the most common signs is over-availability. You rearrange your plans the moment he calls. You respond instantly, even when it disrupts your peace. You say yes, even when your gut says no, because you're afraid to seem difficult. But here's the truth. The more you teach him that your world revolves around his schedule, the more he learns that your time is negotiable, and therefore less valuable. Another behavior that screams option is initiating everything. You plan the dates, you keep the conversations alive, you check in first, you ask the deep questions, and over time, you start to feel like you're the only one emotionally investing. The problem is when you're always leading, he doesn't have to. He doesn't feel the need to pursue, show effort, or even check in, because you've taken over the role of both giver and receiver. You're carrying the connection, hoping he'll catch up. But the more you give without reciprocation, the more he takes without appreciation. Then there's emotional over-explaining. You constantly justify your needs, your boundaries, or your feelings. You fear he'll think you're too much, so you water yourself down. You write long text explaining why you feel a certain way, hoping he'll understand. But men don't respect a woman who explains her worth. They respect the one who embodies it without apology. When you try to earn his understanding, you place him in a position of emotional power and yourself in one of silent permission-seeking. Let's talk about low-stakes tolerance, the behavior where you accept the bare minimum and convince yourself it's enough. He texts inconsistently, but you tell yourself at least he texts. He doesn't make real plans, but you say he's just busy. You're in a situationship that's been stuck in limbo for months, but you call it taking it slow. These rationalizations don't protect your heart. They delay the heartbreak. And men can feel when you're willing to settle. They sense when you're grateful just to be somewhat chosen, and they act accordingly. And finally, hiding your true desires is a subtle but powerful signal that you're willing to be an option. You downplay your desire for commitment because you don't want to scare him off. You act like you're okay with casual, hoping it'll turn serious. You pretend you don't care if he sees other women. You play it cool while dying for clarity. But here's the thing. If a man doesn't know what you truly want, how can he give it to you? And if you're hiding it just to keep him around, is he really choosing you or just the version of you that's easiest for him? Every time you silence yourself to keep someone interested, you're abandoning the very energy that makes you powerful. Every time you accept crumbs in hopes of earning the whole cake, you confirm to him that you'll stay even without being fully loved. And he will never rise to a standard that you've lowered to accommodate him. So if you recognize these behaviors in yourself, this isn't a moment for guilt, it's a moment for power. Because the moment you become aware of how you've been showing up is the moment you gain the power to show up differently. You don't need to force anyone to treat you like a priority. You just need to stop accepting anything less. Because the woman who stops acting like an option becomes the woman no man dares to risk losing. High-value women don't wait to be treated like a queen. They embody the energy of one from the very beginning. They don't play games, but they also don't play small. What sets them apart isn't arrogance or detachment. It's clarity, self-respect, and emotional maturity. The moment they meet someone, their energy silently communicates, I know who I am, and I know what I deserve. From the very first interaction, a high-value woman sets the tone. She doesn't overshare or overperform. She doesn't feel the need to prove that she's worth it. Why? Because she already believes she is. She isn't auditioning for love. She's observing. While others might be anxiously waiting to be chosen, she's quietly evaluating, does this man even qualify for access to my world? That's a powerful shift in energy, and men can feel it instantly. She also doesn't fear silence or space. In fact, she embraces it. She knows that the right man will lean in, not drift away when she's not always available. She's not trying to fill every gap in the conversation or always be the one reaching out first. Her presence is magnetic because it's not desperate, it's secure. She doesn't chase connection, she creates it by being fully rooted in herself. If the energy isn't mutual, she doesn't force it, she simply lets it go. When it comes to boundaries, she's unwavering. A high-value woman doesn't wait until she's deep into a situationship to express what she wants. She's clear from the start. If she desires exclusivity, she says so without fear. If she notices inconsistent behavior, she addresses it early. She knows that uncomfortable conversations are better than confused expectations. And if her honesty scares him away, she sees that as divine protection, not a personal loss. She doesn't entertain emotional ambiguity. If a man sends mixed signals, plays hot and cold, or refuses to define the connection, she doesn't cling to hope. She chooses clarity. She understands that if a man is truly interested, confusion won't be the first feeling she experiences. She's not impressed by breadcrumbs or empty words. She's watching to see if his actions align. And if they don't, she gracefully exits. No drama, no begging, just a clean break that says, "I love me more." A high-value woman also holds herself accountable. She's not perfect, but she's self-aware. She reflects. She heals. She doesn't carry old wounds into new spaces. And she doesn't punish a new man for the mistakes of her past. That emotional intelligence is rare, and men respect it deeply. Because when a woman can own her story without shame, she becomes incredibly powerful. She becomes someone who isn't just desirable, but deeply respected. And maybe the most beautiful thing, she doesn't compete. She knows that real love is not a contest. She's not threatened by other women, because she understands this truth. What is meant for her will never require her to beg, shrink, or betray herself to keep it. She doesn't need to manipulate or strategize. Her energy speaks before she even says a word, and it says, "I don't need you to choose me. I've already chosen myself." The reason high-value women are treated differently is simple. They never allow anything less, not because they're lucky, or born with it, or have it all figured out, but because at some point they decided to stop settling. They realized that their peace, their time, and their love are sacred, and not everyone gets access to them. And from that moment on, they move differently. So if you've ever wondered how to shift the way men respond to you, don't change who you are, change what you allow. Because the moment you start acting like a woman who knows her worth, the world starts treating you like. There is nothing more powerful than a woman who knows her worth and never feels the need to chase to be seen. You don't have to run after love to be loved. You don't have to overextend yourself to be valued. And you definitely don't have to beg for attention from someone who would move mountains if they truly wanted you in their life. The moment you stop chasing is the moment you start commanding presence. That's where the shift begins. Being treated like a priority starts with treating yourself like one. It's not about waiting for a man to step up. It's about showing up for yourself in such a deep and consistent way that anyone who enters your world either rises to meet you or exits quietly. When you prioritize your own peace, your time, and your emotional energy, you send a message without saying a word. "I'm not available for crumbs." And that message changes how everyone, especially men, engage with you. Women who are consistently prioritized by men don't beg for effort. They don't keep asking where things are going. They don't stay in relationships where their needs are consistently ignored. Why? Because they've set the tone early. They know that the standard you set in the beginning is the one you'll have to keep defending if you lower it. And once you start proving you'll stick around even when you're unhappy, you've told him everything he needs to know about how little he has to do to keep you. To be treated like a priority, you must first refuse to make excuses for being an afterthought. If he only calls late at night, if he never plans ahead, if he constantly says he's busy, but always finds time for everything else, that's your signal. Not to try harder, not to hold on tighter, but to step back. A man values what he has to invest in. He respects what he has to work for. And if you make it too easy to be accessed, too easy to be forgiven, too easy to be kept around without effort, you'll never become the woman he's afraid to lose. This doesn't mean you play games or act cold. It means you build a life so full, so vibrant, and so aligned with your own joy that anyone who enters it must add to it, not drain it. You stop putting yourself on hold, waiting for him to get it together. You stop adjusting your expectations to match his inconsistency. You stop making exceptions for the bare minimum, hoping it'll turn into something more. When he feels that you are deeply connected to your own value, he understands one thing loud and clear. If he doesn't prioritize you, someone else eventually will. And if he does, you still win, because you didn't abandon yourself. That's the key. That's the foundation of high self-worth. Chasing may get you his attention, but it will never get you his respect. And without respect, there is no real love. Just convenience, ego stroking, and temporary comfort. So stop trying to prove that you're worth choosing. You already are. Let your actions show it. protect your time, speak your truth, walk away from half-effort love, and watch how differently men treat you. Not because you demanded it, but because you finally decided never to accept less. Because the woman who stops chasing doesn't end up alone. She ends up unforgettable. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she finally gets tired. Not just tired of him or of a pattern or a relationship that's going nowhere, but tired of betraying herself, tired of shrinking, tired of waiting to be chosen, tired of over-explaining why she deserves more. And in that moment, something powerful happens. She shifts, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply and permanently. That shift isn't about revenge. It's not about making him regret or trying to prove your worth. It's about remembering who you are, reclaiming the parts of yourself you gave away, piece by piece, hoping he'd see you, love you, or finally treat you right. It's about realizing that your value never came from his validation, that you were always enough even on the days you forgot it. The shift begins when you stop begging for clarity and start demanding peace, when you no longer find comfort in confusion, when maybe, someday, and almost stop being good enough. You realize that real love never asks you to live in limbo, that no one who truly sees you would ever keep you guessing. You stop settling for emotional breadcrumbs and start expecting full presence, not because you're hard to please, but because your heart is not a halfway destination. The moment you shift, your energy changes. You speak with more certainty. You stop over-explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop performing for affection. You stop waiting for a text to feel like you matter. And you stop viewing silence as a challenge to win him over. Instead, you view it as the answer it really is. When you shift, you stop fearing loss, because you know that nothing real will ever require you to abandon yourself to keep. You stop romanticizing potential and start honoring reality. You become radically honest with yourself. Is this love, or is this a cycle of hope and heartbreak? Is this presence, or is this just proximity? Is he really into you, or just comfortable with the version of you who keeps overgiving? You realize that your softness is not the problem. Your sensitivity, your loyalty, your depth, they're not flaws, they're sacred. They just have to be given to someone who's ready to receive them fully. Not someone who cherry-picks the parts of you that benefit him and discards the rest. And that knowing becomes your new standard. Everything changes when you finally understand that love should feel safe, not anxious, empowering, not exhausting, clarifying, not confusing. It should feel like peace in someone's arms, not pressure to prove you're enough. And once you know what that kind of love looks like, you can never unsee it. So maybe this video didn't just give you information, it gave you a moment mirror, a wake-up call, and maybe this is the exact moment everything begins to shift for you. Because once you raise your standards, not just for how others treat you but for how you treat yourself, your entire life starts to reflect it. Relationships, friendships, opportunities, they all start responding to the new energy you lead with. And the most beautiful part, you don't have to chase anything. You just have to become a woman who is no longer willing to shrink into spaces that don't fit her. A woman who loves herself out loud. A woman who no longer waits to be chosen because she already chose herself. And once you do that, the world can't help but follow your lead.